Has someone ever told you you need to improve your game sense, but then didn't explain it at all? They were like, yeah, your game sense sucks. That's why you lost the game. But they didn't tell you what that meant or how to improve it? Well, fear no more, because in today's video, I'm going to be giving you 6 tips to help you gain Master Tier Game Sense to really help push your limits in Overwatch. Tip number 1 is know the map. Not just the map you're on, but every map, because you never know which map you're gonna get. Knowing the map is gonna be crucial to having good game sense. If you hear someone near you, you oftentimes will be able to tell where they are if you know the map. If you don't know the map at all and you hear an enemy near you, well, it's not really gonna benefit you and you're missing crucial information that can definitely be helping you out. So knowing the physical layout of the map is gonna be huge. But on top of the physical layout of the map, there's also a few other things you should know about it, such as health packs. Health packs are something that can really help out lots of mobile flanker heroes like Tracer and Genji, but in a lot of times, there will be a lot of cases where your supports are dead, or you're chasing down a crucial kill or searching for Symmetra's teleporter, and you're just going to need HP, and your supports aren't going to be there during these times. So knowing health packs is also going to be very valuable for you. And then the final tip I'm going to give you to improve your map knowledge is learn the specifics. Every map has little different things that define it as the map it is. For example, let's take a look at the first point of Temple of Anubis. If you're on the defending team and you want to run a Symmetra Torbjorn composition, you're going to need to know the specifics of where you should be placing Torbjorn and Symmetra's turrets, as well as her teleporter or her shield generator whenever she gets it. These are little specifics I'm talking about. On top of that, if you're on the attacking team, you're going to want to know, alright, if I'm Widowmaker and I want to get crucial picks, where should I set up camp? Or how should I throw my Diva Bomb in a way where it'll catch the enemy team off guard and knock them off that top area, the high ground that they're sitting on. And then the real kicker isn't just knowing these things, but looking for them on the enemy team. For example, the Symmetra and Torbjorn example I gave. Not only will you use this on defense as Symmetra and Torbjorn, you also use these tips on attack. You know, knowing where these enemy turrets are going to be and knowing where the Symmetra is going to set up her teleporter or her shield generator. This is what's going to give you superior game sense. If you don't have to think about it, you don't have to search, you just know these things already, your game sense is going to be already heightened past the average player. But that's only the beginning of our tips. Let's move on to tip number 2, which is going to be your positioning in game. I put this one here because it really goes hand in hand with knowing your map. When you know the map well, you're also going to know where you should be positioned. Now, knowing things and doing them are very different, however. So let me give you 2 mini tips to help make sure you are staying positioned properly throughout your game. Mini tip number 1 is know your effective range. You know, I made a video about this a long time ago, or I think I at least mentioned it once, because effective range is something that a lot of people don't understand. Your effective range is the range where you are hands down the best at in your current situation. For example, Widowmaker's effective range is going to be very long. Everyone knows that. But someone like McCree, his effective range actually changes depending on what the enemy team has. The enemy team is running very long range heroes like Widowmaker or Hanzo, will get up close and personal. Enemy team is running maybe someone like Reaper or Tracer. Well, your effective range is going to be a little bit further back. Knowing the range that you're best at and the enemies aren't best at, in comparison to them, is going to be huge in making sure your positioning stays on point. Mini tip number 2 is always watch out for insta-kills. No matter what hero it is, whether it be Roadhog, Widowmaker, Hanzo, or any hero with insta-kill capability, if the enemy team has one, you need to keep them in the back of your mind at all times. You got to be aware of where that Roadhog is, be aware of where the Widowmaker or the Hanzo is, and then position yourself in a way where you're not vulnerable to them. And the only people that are vulnerable to them are preferably maybe your tanks, because they can't get insta-killed, or your Reinhardt, because he can't even be damaged by them. Utilize your other teammates effectively, and if you are that teammate that's supposed to soak up damage, try to protect your teammates from these insta-kill heroes. Those are my mini positioning tips for tip number 2. Now let's move on to tip number 3 for improving and mastering game sense, which is keep track of enemy ultimates. Depending on your rank, there's a good chance your team has a general idea of which ultimates the enemy team has, but the problem is a lot of teams you'll find and a lot of players will not actively think about this, and they won't actually keep it in the back of their mind that they should probably try to avoid the Earth Shatter, or should block the Earth Shatter in the case of someone like Reinhardt. So by you making sure you know what ultimates the enemy team has and constantly reminding your team that they have them, you're going to help your team out greatly. If you really want to step up your game, you can also plan out ways to counter enemy ultimates. For example, if the enemy team has a Zarya and a Hanzo and they want to do the Graviton Surge Dragon Strike, you're pretty screwed unless you have someone like Zenyatta. Or you avoid the incoming ults directly, either by just simply avoiding them physically so the Graviton Surge doesn't catch anyone, or using someone like D.Va to eat the Dragon Strike, or the Graviton also works. Having a Reinhardt there to maybe try to pin the Zarya before things happen. Going and taking that extra step towards planning out how you can stall the enemy ultimates usage out or make their ults useless is going to also help you greatly. Let's move on now to tip number 4 for mastering your game sense in Overwatch. This one is a little bit more advanced, so you're going to need to practice it and actually probably think about it more actively than my other tips. This one is try to figure out or recall where enemies are position-wise. If you've already pushed a point a few times and you haven't been able to take it, there's a good chance you know where the enemy team is set up. Don't simply keep trying to push through a choke point that Mei keeps walling you off of and screwing you over on by separating your teammates, and don't keep going through that corridor with Symmetra turrets in it. You know these things. This information has been provided to you by previous pushes. Find a different route where you can push. Take out the Mei with a Widowmaker or something. Use knowledge of enemy positioning to your advantage. Not only this, but let's say they don't have a small choke point or a Mei like that. You can also simply call out where someone like the enemy Mercy is or the enemy Soldier 76 is. You can say like, alright, support stay in the back because their Winston's going to jump on you. Or, hey guys, that Soldier 76 is sitting up high on the high ground. If we could get someone up there like D.Va to really take him out and disrupt him, that would be helpful too. These sort of call outs, sort of like force feeding knowledge to your team. When the team sees them, they might not really, regurgitate them. By you kind of processing the knowledge for them and force feeding it to them, you're basically sharing your game sense with the team, making it much easier for your team to take out these targets. Let's keep going, talking about tip number 5 here, which is know which heroes synergize well as know which heroes counter other heroes. This can kind of be summed up as know the meta, but not necessarily, because heroes can synergize and counter other heroes without being meta. So let me give you some examples. One common counter that everyone knows is Winston and Genji. If the enemy team has a Genji that's messing you up pretty bad, it may be worth it to invest in a Winston to really try to shut him down. This is good, and this is something you definitely need to know, but I'm talking a little bit different when I say know synergies and counters on the battlefield. You need to know some things on the spot, because you won't always have time to switch heroes before a team fight breaks out. What you really need to know is target acquisition. Let's say you're playing Zarya and for some reason the enemy Zenyatta is just messing up your team and you don't know why. Well, you should definitely prioritize him first if you get the opportunity, because you pretty much counter Zenyatta as Zarya. There's nothing he can really do to you. As far as game sense goes, these are the type of counters I'm talking about. The makeshift counters. The ones where it's like, alright, we're in the moment here. Who do I go for? And who can I take out the most effectively? That's what I'm talking about, and that's something you're definitely going to need to learn if you want to get master tier game sense. My final tip number 6, is cooldown management. This is something that kills a lot of players, especially people on very cooldown reliant heroes like Zarya, for example, or Ana, for example. Wasting Sleep Dart is a huge no-no. Wasting your bubbles is a huge no-no. So knowing when you should and should not be using your abilities is something that you need to make second nature. You shouldn't have to think about it. If you have to think about using an ability, it's already too late. The opportunity is gone. But if you can master this, really understand when and where abilities should be used, that's going to help you greatly. Combine this with your good positioning, your map knowledge, your synergies, target acquisition, and all this other stuff we talked about today, and you can definitely have some master tier game sense. And then what you do after that is work on your mechanics, or vice versa, which will make you a very good player in the long run. Hopefully this video was helpful to you all. If it was, be sure to leave a like down below, and if you have any suggestions for future videos, I'd love to hear those on top of that. And also be sure to follow me on Twitter at LoneHawk. Check out my Discord server too. Basically just check out all those links in the description. There's a lot of links. I'm sure you'll like them all. So check out those links, and hopefully I'll see you guys all later. LoneHawk out.